Present.
Vice Mayor Moore,
Present.
Mayor Hillman,
Present.
Town Attorney Tercivia, Town Manager Labadie.
Present.
Thank you.
And let's rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Are there any adjustments or deletions to the agenda?
Yes, Mayor.
Yes.
Peggy here. I have two very brief additions just for a brief discussion. One is if we would like to repeat the graduates of all different levels of education graduating in this current springtime, and if we wanted to address that and give them congratulations as last year.
Okay, let's add that to new business.
Yes, sir.
That would be J under new business.
Yes, please. And the second item, or I could discuss it in commission reports, is just an update, which will be followed up by Marshall and his staff, an update on the FP&L tree and electric and internet wires. So I could do that with this as an item or in my reports.
Let's do that in your comments if you're okay with that.
Oh, yes, sir, that'd be fine. If we need action on it, we can take it up on June, would be the 15th then.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Can I have a motion to accept the agenda with that one addition, please?
I move to accept the agenda as amended.
Second.
Second.
All in favor, just say aye.
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 And proclamations. The department is here to discuss hurricane season. Chief, it's all yours.
Mayor, Commissioners, good afternoon. Just a quick reminder that today is June. Every time of year, June 1st to November 30th. Things that we have to worry about as a barrier island that we do every year, hurricane season. So we see again, NOAA, as they even tell us every year, an active season, be prepared for it. And that is our same message that we give to you in the community every year. Have a plan, be prepared. The message is always the same. We know that the seasons are different. They can always be dynamic, and we don't know what we're going to get. The average season, 12 named storms, and we know it just takes one storm, bad storm, to hit us where we are for it to be a bad hurricane season. So just a couple of quick reminders. We are in a barrier island, all of Highland Beach. Category 2 or higher is expected. There's evacuation orders, those are issued from the county. Nothing is done by the town. Don't blame your town commissioners. This is all from the county, the state. They will issue those mandatory evacuation orders. We suggest that if they issue those, you make every effort to try and go ahead and evacuate yourself. That's the priority. You don't have to leave the state, the county. You have friends, you have acquaintances, you're able to get over the bridge, get to a mainland, hopefully to avoid any flooding, any issues that we could face. Because of the barrier island, we suggest you try to do that. We know people want to be in their homes, get back to their homes. We will get you back in. There's no specific pass, placard, any special secret handshake, none of those things. We want to get you back in here. Our building managers, our maintenance people, our repair people, if you know where you're going, addresses, names, we will get you into those checkpoints, assuming the conditions will allow you to return. So those are always important. Keep that in mind. Know where you're going, we'll get you back in. Haven't you already met anybody watching this, anybody you talk to? Code Red. Code Red seems to be our best form of notification. Like reverse 911, sign up with us. You'll get those notifications, text, email, however you define you want to get them, wherever you are. In other parts of the country, because when we send those out, they're getting updated, know what's going on in their own community. If we have closures, if there's evacuations, if we have floodings, when we reopen. Try and sign up for that code red. That's helpful. We blast out information, Google channel, Facebook, Twitter, emails, all those things. We're working. Those are great, but depending on the conditions, we don't know how that may develop. But if you can get on code red, that would be helpful. We have all our plans in place for your town, your staff. We're unfortunately become very good at this as we continue to practice and dry run every year, and some of the close calls that we've had. All our contracts are in place, our ties, our communications, our partners. We actually just met with our FP&O rep this morning, different things, and talked about our preparedness for hurricane season. So that's it. We're in this mode now till the end of November, and please take that time now to go through what you have to keep yourself, your family safe. When there is no urgency, when there is tax breaks like there is now, no tax, but get those things in place. If we can help with any of your planning, any of your preparations, any information, you can certainly get that information off our website. But we much rather talk to you now and answer questions, help you through that process before things become dire. And we're doing a lot of other things to keep everybody safe during this time frame. So do those now. And one thing I will remind everybody, you don't have to call and ask when will the bridges be shut down. They don't shut the bridges down. So please know that. You voters know that they'll close those bridges so they don't go up at a certain point, and wherever you are, you're staying there. Those bridges stay in the down position, down, so you can traverse and leave. That's your egress to get off an island. So they will always be that way prior to the storm and during the storm. Question? Oh, good. I was able to answer that. So we're here to help you in that process. Be prepared, hoping that we don't have to go through any of those drills, but we're prepared to do that. It's that time of year again. We can do to help you prior to that. Go ahead and contact them. Thank you.
I have a question.
Yes.
So for individuals who aren't able, they're on a walker or what's the correct
So yes,
protocol?
we actually have a list of homebound people, of shelters that will accommodate them. We've begun that process of contacting, reaching back out to them. Some of them will get information to us who may need that type of assistance. So we work on that now every year. Tarisha has compiled a list of those people that may need that type of assistance and where they can go to too. So we've talked to them also about being able to get off the island should the evacuation order to come. Obviously, the shelters are a last resort, and I mean they should be a last resort for people. They're not ideal, and they may not always be available. So we saw that during one of our storms where people wanted to leave very bad. Dorian that was right on top of us, and they were trying to get anywhere they could, and they could not get out of where they were. Or they got stuck on the interstate in those conditions. But yes, thank you for that question. We do have those people.
So what should
Anybody
they-
knows that type of stuff, they can contact us at the town.
Like
We'll
an
gather
email
information.
Tarisha?
Yes.
Okay.
Email the
Tarisha.
town,
Okay.
any of us, the police department,
Okay.
will categorize that. We'll reach out to them and make sure we know where they are and how to get a hold of them. if we have.
Anybody else? Any questions?
Yes, Chief, I have been asked, well, exactly what does a older couple, say in their 70s or 80s, not necessarily with walkers, but where do they go? So I have said, obviously, they should consider hotels, family, or any of the civic facilities that have been declared places to, safe houses, so to speak, like gymnasiums, schools, wherever. Is there a simple document that tells people where they can go if they're not familiar with the area, high schools and other places that they could go to if they can't get a hotel room?
Correct, yes. We'll have that on our website as well. In Palm Beach County will also, sometimes they change from year to year, but it'll tell you what type of shelter it is, what you need, and locations of them. So that'll be on the town's website, our hurricane information. Like we said, though, that's probably your last resort if you have to. That's not the ideal place to go.
Right.
many of us, so many residents have friends just over the bridge, whether it's Delray, Boca, somewhere in the area. And if you're making those plans now and conversations now, to be able to say, if we get to a mandatory evacuation, are we able to come there? And we know people that talk about that they have those plans in place now. They can get there, and then this way they can get home safely and quickly. Should it be a non-event, or should it be they need to go back and check? But we know people make those. They tell us they've already made those type of arrangements, and they're not trying to do it as a storm is bearing down on us. So take advantage of those friendships, partnerships, family, even some of the ones you don't talk to in your family. But get over there and trying to be able to get to off to the island part of during a mandatory evacuation.
Very good.
Good. Thanks, Chief. Moving right along. Presentations and proclamations, which is the care of. Public comments. Do we have any, Vanelda?
There are no advanced pre-registered today.
Okay. Announcements, board vacancies, Board of Adjustments and Appeals, there are 2 vacancies. Board of Enforcement, there's 1. Financial Advisory Board, there are 3. I believe there are 2 that will be interviewing next meeting. Is that correct?
Yes, we're going to queue up all those that are in process and do that all on the 15th of June.
Okay. Natural Resources, there are 4, and the Planning Board, there is 1. Upcoming meetings, June 8th, 2 p.m. Code Enforcement, the 9th, 2 p.m. Charter Review Board, the 10th, 9:30 Planning Board, and 15th, 1:30 Town Commission. Board Action Report says here Charter Review Board for information only, but there's no information on it. Unless I missed them in my packet.
No, I don't have any either.
Is there something missing in the packet or?
First paragraph, it said, at that meeting, the board members discussed the charter sections recommended by the town commission and will continue their discussion at the next meeting. They took no action.
Okay. Thank you. Let's move on to ordinances. 11, this is a second reading, so I'll read it into the record. Ordinance number 2021-006, amending section 30-66, other requirements, and section 30-68, supplemental district regulations of the zoning code, chapter 30, second reading. An ordinance of the town of Highland Beach, Florida, amending section 30-66, other requirements, and section 30-68, supplemental district regulations of the town code of ordinances to modify certain encroachments into setbacks for properties abutting a waterway, canal, or lake, providing for the repeal of all ordinances in conflict, providing for severability and codification, and providing an effective date. First reading was May 18th, 2021. I'll turn it over to, I guess, to Ms. Allen.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
So if you look on page 11 of your packets, I've gone ahead and just provided a very brief memorandum. If you recall at the last meeting, which was on May 18th, the commission did ask for some clarity on the proposed language. You want a little bit more emphasis on the fact that the non-pervious, non-porous based materials for walkways, that it's more clear that they are permitted, while still encouraging the porous and pervious based materials as well. So we've gone ahead and revised the language. It's very clear on page 11. We've also provided those changes in the actual ordinance, which starts on page number. believe it's 14. We just together. Yes, starts on, nope, sorry. Starts on page 17 of your packets. So it's a pretty straightforward change. I'll be happy to address any questions that the commission might have.
Okay, we'll take it around. John, any questions or comments?
No, I don't really have much value to offer here. Boy, it's very specific. It's very detailed. I mean, I'm counting the number of feet in so many ways, but overall, good.
Okay.
Now, we discussed this, they made the changes that had been requested, and it seems fairly straightforward to me at this point.
Peggy? Can't hear you, Peg.
Got it. Hear me now? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. My only question would be, thank you, Ingrid, for all of your work on this. I did note that in our code section 24.5, it does state that no person shall throw into the ocean or intercoastal waterway or canals any trash, refuse, filth, manure, runoff. And my question would be, when we do extend the rear setback, what plan do we have to disallow drainage and runoff from the decks into the waterways? I believe you referenced a drain, but in other words, if you come out and wash your pool deck with Clorox when it's moldy and it pours into the intercoastal, that's not environmentally a great situation. So I just wondered if we have any means of addressing that.
Can you just clarify, you're talking specific, you mentioned the rear setback. So you're asking about the drainage? I'm sorry, I'm not sure I understood.
Okay, yes. Yes. What I'm asking is, let me get my notes, hang on. Don't have everything on the road with me. If we modify the setbacks, which we are doing, and if in fact the rear setback abuts waterways, which I believe all our properties do, what effect is there for keeping refuse from the setbacks into pouring into the waterways?
I don't know that there's any way you can alleviate refuse from getting into the water. I mean, there are winds and what have you, but also just let me clarify, you say that we're modifying the setbacks. We're not modifying the setbacks. These are encroachments that are allowed.
Yeah, I understand. Sorry, I'll rework that into the encroachments. My concern is that the encroachments somehow and sometimes do allow debris and water that may be polluted with chemicals or whatever to flow into the canals and waterways. I just wondered if there's any way to mitigate that.
Well, you mentioned chapter 24. I mean, I have to look at the code to see if there are any provisions.
It's 24.5, Miss Allen. I'm just trying to just throw it out so that we don't get to where we pass this and then we have it come back because we didn't discuss that possibility.
I'll be happy to look at 24.5. There may be other provisions in the code about littering or putting some sort of refuse in the waterway. There may be provisions in the code in addition to the section that you're providing or that you're referencing.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
again, this is, specific to walkways and patios.
Yes.
Yeah, can some patio chair fly into the waterway? I know you're talking about possibly chemicals, but I think that's a reality, whether you're abutting the waterway, you're a few feet back. I think there's always a possibility for things like that. Again, I would like to look at that particular section of the code and bring it back or talk about it at the next commission meeting so staff has time to look at that section.
Yes, ma'am. I just wanted to address it so that we could be fully understanding some perhaps spin-off problems from passing this, but otherwise it's terrific and I appreciate everyone's work. Nothing else for me. Thank you.
Thank you. This addresses my concern exactly. I like the final result. So I'm good with that. I guess just to follow up on Commissioner Gossett-Seidman's comment. Just speaking about my own property, I have a concrete seawall. So whether there is a impervious or, non-porous that goes, there's still the issue of cleaning the concrete seawall. So I don't see why changing this encroachment would change any aspect of littering or chemicals,
Yeah,
it would be about the
I agree.
same.
This is about an encroachment
Mhm.
with setback. So I think it's important to kind of focus
Right.
on this particular section. I understand the comment. As I said, I like to look, actually, when I sit down after this item, I have the computer here, the laptop, I'll look at that particular section. But again, I think it's important to keep the focus on
Right.
encroachment sections, zoning code, as maybe other provisions or those
And just
provisions
to
in chapter
remind
24.
everyone, we still have the seawall.
Yes,
We still
correct.
have a hard seawall. So.
Yes.
If I could mention, it would seem to me that any pollutants, from gasoline to whatever, Clorox, that has to be covered somewhere in the waterways that's controlled by the Corps of Army Engineers, as well as for the town. So again, it seems like the whole area of allowing pollutants into the waterways is covered elsewhere. I have to believe that.
I'll be happy, as I said, to check right now when I sit down and I can come back up and let you know what the code says.
Okay, here's my take on it. I don't think it applies. However, a commissioner is asked, so I would like you to take a look before we vote on this.
Sure.
So let's move on to the next, and after you have a chance to do the quick look and a little bit of research, and we'll come back. Yes, go
I
ahead.
think we could talk about it right now. I mean, basically it says don't litter, so don't throw stuff in the intercoastal. So I would encourage people not to litter in the intercoastal. There might be an opportunity to get a little bit closer, or through congregating, you might have some chairs closer maybe. But again, the responsibility of taking care of litter is on the individual to make sure you're not just throwing your garbage into. That's what it's from the solid waste chapter. So it basically, no person shall drop, throw, or place in the waters of the Atlantic or the intercoastals of the town any garbage, trash, refuse, filth, or matter, or anything that matter, or place, or leave, or deposit in the shore. So basically it's trash, solid waste, litter.
Oh, so you looked at it. then.
Thank you. What chapter was that?
Okay,
You can give me the chapter number. Thank you. Oh, it was 24. Very good. Thank you.
okay, so the research has been
There you
done.
go.
Peggy, go ahead. Can't hear you, Peg.
Okay, my exact example is those in townhomes, anyone with an encroachment of a patio extension. The exact example is someone hires a pressure cleaner to clean the patio. They clean it with a series of chemicals and they blow it into the intercoastal. That is why I'm asking. It happens quite often, and in allowing further encroachments just extends that problem. Though this is not the focus today, I simply wanted to raise the issue as it is a side problem that can occur. If we could somehow make people and residents aware that this is not permitted to, as under 24(5) and anything else Miss Allen or Marshall find, it is not permitted to allow to discharge all of that cleaning fluid into the waters. That is the bottom line.
I think everybody here agrees with what you just said. but
Yes, sir.
That doesn't apply to this ordinance.
Also, from what Marshall said, 24/5 is solid waste.
Right.
Flowing in doesn't constitute solid waste, so it would have to come someplace else. But I think we all agree that you shouldn't put anything into it. So,
Yes,
okay, to know how we would enforce that. It makes no sense to have something on the books that we can't enforce or that is spot enforced. So,
I just wanted to raise it, that's all.
to enforce it, I'd be glad to consider it.
Yes, it does cover anything whatsoever into the blown or washed into the waters is the exact language. But my point has been made and I appreciate everyone's taking it into account.
Your point's valid. And
Yes, thank you, sir.
we all agree, and we all wish we could put a stop to it, but it's time to move on.
Yes, sir.
Any further comments on this ordinance before we call for a motion? No more comments? Okay, can I have a motion?
I move that we pass ordinance number 2021-006 as currently presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, we need a roll call, please.
Yes. Commissioner David,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Moore,
Aye.
Commissioner Shoemaker,
Yes.
Commissioner Gossick Sideman,
Yes.
and Mayor Hillman.
Yes.
Motion carried. Thank you.
Okay, let's move on to B, which is also a second reading. So I'll read this into the record. Ordinance number 2021-007, amendment to the zoning code, chapter 30, second reading. Ordinance of the town of Highland Beach, Florida, amending chapter 30 zoning code of the town code of ordinances in order to correct several scrivener's errors and to eliminate obsolete provisions pertaining to public notice and vertical datum, providing for the severability and codification, providing an effective date. First reading was May 18th, 2021. Can be found on page 22.
Sure. There actually were no changes to the ordinance since you last saw it. You recall on May 18th, the commission approved it, had no requested changes. So again, it's before you for a second read. I'm happy to address any questions.
Okay, John, start with you again.
Well, not so much a question as a lesson. I want to commend Ms. Allen. On the summary on page 23, the first line, it says, the staff found several Scrivener's errors. I thought that Scrivener was a spelling error until I looked it up. And so I have to admit, I learned something and I thought I was pretty good at English. Anyways, as far as the remainder, I don't really have any value to add in terms of changes or comments. I'm good with it.
Ed?
No, straightforward, just correcting errors, and I'm fine.
Okay, Peggy?
Yes, it's great. Thank you.
Looks good to me.
Okay, I have no comments either. So we'll entertain a motion.
I move we accept ordinance 2021-007 as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Need a roll call.
Commissioner David,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Moore,
Aye.
Commissioner Shoemaker,
Aye.
Commissioner Gossick Sideman,
Yes.
Mayor Hillman.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to page 32. Item C, proposed ordinance amending chapter 2, section 2-29 of the town code of ordinances. This is a first go round, so I'm going to turn this one over to Marshall.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. As you recall from our discussion, we found a conflict to the commission's resolution on appointments where you couldn't serve, a resident could not serve on 2 advisory boards. Yet we spent a lot of time in 2019 putting together an appointment process where we said the commission has the right to put somebody on 2 advisory boards. And this led to the issue with 3 of our charter review board members being on existing advisory boards. So with that being said, we moved to strike that one provision. So it then defaults back to it's the commission's right to choose if somebody serves on 2 advisory boards. This just strikes that provision.
Okay, it's straightforward, but let's run it around again. John?
Yeah, no, that's just a simple deletion of wording to correct the ordinance. I'm good.
I'm good with it.
Peggy?
Yes, thank you. It's great. Good housekeeping.
Okay,
Looks good.
I'm good also. So let's move on then.
Need a motion.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Need
Please.
a motion.
Okay.
You can't make the motion.
Okay, I move that we pass an ordinance of the town of Highland Beach, Florida, amending Chapter 2, Administration, Article 5, Boards and Committees, Division 1, generally of the Town Code of Ordinances by amending Section 2-99, Procedure for Appointment and Filling of Vacancies, Qualification for Membership of Boards and Committees and Terms, to strike the language requiring a conditional resignation to serve on a second advisory board, providing for the repeal of all ordinances in conflict, providing for severability and codification, and providing for an effective date.
I'll second it. All in-
Very. Aye.
Move on to
Aye.
item on page 39. Proposed ordinance amending the town code of ordinances to adopt the new chapter 34 fire rescue. Ordinance of the town of amending the town code of ordinances to adopt a new chapter 34 fire rescue, providing for the creation of a fire rescue department and the department's function and composition, providing for the appointment of a fire chief, providing for the severability and codification, and providing an effective date.
Mayor, you came in kind of choppy in the beginning, just so you'll know, and for the sake of recording this on video. I don't know if it's the microphone. You might want to get closer to it.
Oh, okay. Better.
Very good.
Okay, got any comments on it?
Nope, I'm good. I went through it. You know, so it's all looking good to me. It's moving up, moving in the right direction.
Okay, Evelyn?
I believe this covers all the issues that we had and gives us the ability to create a fire department.
Yep.
So I'm,
Peggy?
Yes, it's great.
Tasha?
Looks good to me.
Okay. One question for Marshall, under functions. Do we need to expand that list? Does it need to be all encompassing, or is this just sufficient to get this thing rolling?
A little bit of both. It is sufficient to get things rolling. It does cover pretty much everything a small fire department would cover. Again, it is an ordinance. As we advance and define ourselves as a fire rescue department, we may make some tweaks. We could do that at another time. This is basically the foundational elements to create that fire department. We'll tweak it, I'm sure, in time, but we don't know what that exactly is going to look like. But this covers all the main topics of services that will be provided by the fire rescue department.
Mayor, I think that is an excellent point. Actually, I thought of it too. It's just that I viewed this as, this is our initial recording of the functions, and that once we get a fire chief on board, you know, a lot of things are going to change anyway.
Okay, so I shouldn't be viewing this as a job description.
Correct.
Okay, then I'm fine with it. Do we need a roll call on this one?
Please.
Okay, roll call, please.
We need a first, we need a
need
first
a-
and a second.
We
Yeah.
need a motion, yeah.
motion.
Yeah. Right.
Okay. Are we going to give this a number?
On second reading,
Okay.
we
Then
will.
I move that we pass an ordinance of the town of Highland Beach, Florida, amending the town code of ordinances to adopt a new chapter 34 fire rescue,
That's all
providing,
you need. I already read it into the record.
okay.
You could actually say I make a motion to approve item C,
Right.
I make a
or
motion,
D,
we
excuse me, item D.
approve item D on the agenda.
I second.
Okay.
Okay, all in favor?
No, this,
Now you want a roll call?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Commissioner David,
yes,
Commissioner Gossick Sideman,
Yes.
Commissioner Shoemaker,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Moore,
Aye.
Mayor Hillman.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Okay, moving forward, no consent agenda, no unfinished business. New business, page 45 is resolution number 2021-010, a budget amendment, a resolution of the Town Commission of the Town of Highland Beach, Florida, amending resolution number 20-017, which appropriated funds for the 2020-2021 fiscal year budget and providing an effective date. Again, page 45. You want to handle this?
Sure. So basically, the Florida Municipal Insurance Trust, which we all belong to collectively as a group of cities in the state of Florida, has a safety program. As part of that, they give out dollars to public safety agencies, and it's covering 50% of the cost for some new radar equipment. So it seems a good opportunity to get it at a 50% discount. And the budget amendment moves the dollars to recognize that. Basically, our support, our accounting behind it. So. And Chief Hartman's here to talk about his radar strategy if you need that.
Anybody have any questions?
This was money that we had previously applied for in the budget or allowed. Was this covered by our budget?
Yeah, we got it.
Okay.
Yep. Yes.
It's only $1,700. I have to believe we can.
Say that again, John.
It's only $1,700, I would imagine, even if it wasn't planned for, that we would be able to accommodate it. No?
Yeah, we're good. Yeah,
And we were able to find a matching grant fund or
Yeah.
to apply to it and upgrade the technology, which is now more than it's old. It's not outdated, but the technology has improved since what we have now.
That's cool. Need a motion? If there's no questions, any further questions?
Okay.
Yeah, I did. Did someone say something?
No, okay. I move we accept resolution number 2021-010.
Second.
Second, yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Move on to resolution number 2021-011, budget amendment. Resolution of the Town Commission of the Town of Highland Beach, Florida, amending resolution number 20-017, which appropriated funds for the 2020-2021 fiscal year budget and providing an effective date on page 50. Marshall.
Thank you, Mayor. 100% coverage on this one on a FDLE, basically to update our report management system, some new guidelines from the FBI and the Florida incident-based reporting system. So this is fully covered through a grant. So it's 100%. This is to recognize the grant revenue and the grant expenditure this year.
Anybody have any questions?
We need to just keep getting these grants.
Okay, entertain a motion.
I move we accept resolution number 2021-011 as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, just say aye.
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 Okay, item C, page 55. All right, this is a big one. Chief, you want to come up here while I read it? Approve and authorizes the mayor to execute a 5-year contract agreement with the Axon Enterprise, Inc. in the amount of $197,000 for the purchase of body cameras, in-car cameras, LPR cameras, docking stations, mounts, redaction assistant, battery packs, automated activation feature, licensing, and warranty for the police department. Do you want to chat about this before we open it up to questions, Chief?
Yeah, if you don't mind, I'll give you a quick brief. I have a little quick presentation.
Please.
Some of it, Teresa can set that for you on the screen while she's doing that. So you're aware, I think you know that we've had body worn cameras. We were one of the first agencies in the county back in 2015 to implement them. We had them. We recently last year upgraded the technology 5 years into this as it started to evolve, and we encountered quite a few technical difficulties with it. So much to the point that we had to get out of that and go back into what we were using. That's how severe it was. And obviously, as you can imagine now, the body worn cameras, all our capabilities of that is critical at this juncture where we are in the world today with policing. So what we've evolved to now is approaching with Axon, a company that's an industry standard that actually has captured the market on that for all of the integrated technology for that. Fortunately, I have some people that are involved with the staff that have worked with Axon before. It is complicated. It is a big company, and they offer quite a bit. So we have some in-house expertise with Axon. And I'll just give you a quick run through of Axon and why we're making this type of investment, as almost all the other agencies in the county have already or are evolving to it. A company out here in the United States, 1,000 employees. Next slide. You can see what they serve, their numbers throughout the country, around the world. Next. How the process works in the field, comes into the evidence, into the cloud, pay for that, their storage, their integration, and how you can disseminate and store all of that information that you're capturing. Next. Activates, captures, how it works. You see the bottom down there, Axon Citizen. We'll talk about that in a minute on how that can integrate with our community, how they utilize that and capture that information and get it back to us. Next. Taser, part of the package, the suite that you read and talked about. You know, we have tasers. This will upgrade the taser. This is the latest taser that they provide. Their technology evolves also like everything else. Next. You see their numbers that they've studied from Axon, why it's effective. Next. Litigation is important. Next. And even London Met, where they use the tasers. Next. This is their body camera, body one camera 3, their latest and greatest. Next. Same thing on why they deploy it, why everybody deploys it. Next. From their research, those important numbers, big numbers. Next. And you can see there's some of the case studies from the agencies around the country. Those are dramatic numbers, things that you want to see in citizen complaints and use of force, certainly. Next. All the capabilities of those cameras. Next. Part of the suite that we're getting is also our cameras that they'll be replacing the car that are over a decade old, but the in-car camera systems that are all integrated with this, that'll go in the car. Next, in our patrol cars. Part of what we don't have now is what they offer is we'll be mounting a automatic license plate reader camera in the car. So like we have at our stationary static cameras at the end of town, these will be in our cars as they move. So they'll be able to read tags in front of them as they approach. Next. You can see what this comes with in our cars, how this technology has really evolved. What's in there. Our hubs, our cameras, antennas, wireless cameras, body cameras, how this all connects and integrates into our computer systems in the car. Next. And then when we talked about the ALPR and what we would look to maybe expand on with them, I'm trying to put them in some fixed static locations in town or side streets, Bellito, Russell, a few of them as we develop and evolve into this. So there's other capabilities with it. Next.
What does the last line, what does that mean? Offered alongside flock safety? What is that?
Yeah. Yes. the program that runs a license plate, that runs a tag, that's a different,
Oh.
that actually run a tag. It's different than what we have at our towns, but we're able to get information off of that also. So the key to why it's a sole source, no other provider provides this type of integration. The important piece to this is that it utilizes evidence.com, which is a process now that other agencies use. The state attorney's office requires it. So our information, as we gather that information through our case, is now downloaded into evidence.com, and we can file this right with the state attorney. What's good for the citizen piece of this we talked about is where people have pictures on their phone, they have Ring doorbell cameras, they have security cameras. We had a serious accident where our association caught that whole incident on camera. No more having to make thumb drives and trying to get all the, your tech person from wherever they are can take that information and send it to a link that we give them that will categorize it and put it right into evidence.com as part of that case file. And it will categorize it, it'll be there. It makes it seamless. It makes it easy for our community, our residents. And we see more and more of this as we go on with the technology and everybody that has surveillance cameras, the associations, the ring, these things that are going on. So we want to encourage that. The other important piece is all this ties together now, which we don't have now, and why this has become the industry standard for police departments. So this suite that you're looking at here and defined in this involves a lot of pieces. There's more to it that they can offer, but important pieces that we want to have for our police department. And one of those things is the triggers that allows these, that generates these cameras to start and activate. And that is, one of them is when you draw your taser to use your taser and you power it on and ready to use it. That sets off your body worn camera, whether you remember to do that or not. That will set off all the cameras that are involved in the incident that are in proximity. So if somebody else shows up and they didn't have their camera on, it will set off the car cameras. You will get those pictures from every angle. It will set it off. You draw your firearm and have to use your firearm, or just have to use it to gain compliance. Once you unholster that firearm, this automatically turns on. Your car cameras automatically turns on, and it turns everybody else's on that's on that scene. So that's hugely important for what we're trying to do, and the transparency. It takes that, it makes it foolproof that these things are going to go off if you have to resort to using any type of weapons in the engagement of what we're doing. We are also fortunate enough to reach is a drone pilot, certified pilot with the drones, and they've sent him the air application that they also have a piece of now, and you're able to fly a drone and capture that and see that in real time, and do the video and record through the drone. We're testing a body-worn camera from them right now that they just sent us. We just watched that earlier today, live on a traffic stop. It's pretty impressive to see the technology of how it evolves, to be able to capture that interaction with somebody, hear that dialogue and that dynamic as they're happening in these moments, and it's so critical for what we're doing. Like you heard on the other pieces, we're actually researching grant money right now that we think may cover some of it, small portions of it, but that's ongoing, and we didn't even realize that when we started looking at this. So we certainly run down those opportunities where we can get that grant money and get that kind of money back. But that's our presentation to you today on what we're doing and why we're moving in that direction. Like you see most other agencies now are making that commitment. Question?
I have a few, Mayor. First of all, I think this is really incredible technology. I know there were difficulties early on, but Axon seems to have really surfaced as the premier leader supplier of the technology that is not only functional, reliable, integrated, and available. 10,000 law enforcement agencies, that is unbelievable. So they are the sole standard, become the sole source. And so it makes sense not to go looking for other suppliers here. They also have the most experience so that we can relate and learn from others. But now my questions. Have we ever had to use a laser in Highland Beach?
Taser, no. We've deployed them. We haven't fired them on anybody since I've been here. So
And-
like you saw in some of that, the numbers there, you gain that compliance when you have that type of weapon and availability to you to be able to gain that without utilizing that. Actually,
Right.
yes.
Okay, and we've never had to actually use a gun and fire a gun in Highland Beach with a suspect. Is that correct?
Correct. That I'm aware of. Yes. Yeah, we've certainly drawn firearms on many occasions and felony stops, different things that occur, building searches, some things that are we've to gain that compliance. And this would would turn those cameras on if you were to be in that type of situation.
Right, right. And clearly understand that. And things are changing, obviously. Things radically changed in the past year. This whole attitude towards crime by criminals has unbelievably changed the landscape. Range. I understand that these models have different ranges depending on the model. What did you decide that you would want for, do you have the same range for the officers with the same taser model? 15 feet, 30 feet?
Oh, the range of the taser.
Yeah, for the tasers.
I'll let you speak to, we happen to have in our training subject matter expert, Officer Jerry Riccio.
Okay.
Good afternoon. So the new Taser 7, it actually has 2 cartridges versus the one that we currently are deployed with now. So there's a cartridge, which is a 25-foot cartridge, and then there's a close quarter combat cartridge, which is essentially you could fire that at 3.5 feet and still gain compliance, or they call it neuromuscular incapacitation. So there's 2 cartridges.
Yeah, so again, each officer then would have a taser that with 2 cartridges can cover short and long range, correct? Okay, but they load with 1 cartridge. What would be the suggested range of that cartridge for the loading and carrying?
So they would load 2 cartridges. They would load a close quarter combat cartridge or a close distance cartridge, and they would load a standoff cartridge, which would be the 25-foot. So there's 2 cartridges that can serve 2 purposes. The Taser has a technology that if you cant it to the left and then vertical again, it actually has like a gyrometer in it where it'll allow you to change from left to right banks. So the Taser fires left bank first unless you switch it manually. And by doing that, you're canting the Taser up and then back, and then it'll fire. So this way the officer has the opportunity to change between a close quarter if need be, or to a standoff cartridge if he's able to gain the distance.
Okay, so, you know, obviously there's been a lot of information in the news about the altercation where 2 officers were struggling with a suspect, and the suspect was able to get the Taser, start running, and then he turned to fire at the officer with the Taser, but the police was able to shoot him and kill him first. So my question is, how comfortable does the chief feel, or you feel, with not making that kind of a mistake, either in losing the Taser in a struggle, or in the other situation, using a gun instead of the laser when she thought she was reaching for and using a Taser? I said laser, I mean Taser. You follow me?
Yeah, and certainly, and that comes in part with our training. The things that we do, I think not everybody has seen it yet, but we are fortunate that we have set up a simulator upstairs that we actually are taking our officers through various scenarios that they wouldn't normally get just in their normal routine day-to-day operations. So we run them through scenarios, we do drills. Officer Riccio specifically trains in all of this de-escalation, defensive tactics. I can't even think of all the stuff we're doing, but all of that training that applies to these type of things And that's incorporated in our training. So yeah, and the taser is just another simple tool to be able to gain compliance for that person so it doesn't escalate to something more.
So the taser then would be holstered in the same area as the gun? Or are you doing it opposite sides?
Correct. It's a cross-body front draw.
All right, good. All right, now, I'm asking because tasers obviously are in the news, and wherever possible, you want to use a laser and not a gun. And we don't want to make a mistake in reaching for the gun when you wanted to reach the taser. Okay, another question. Each vehicle is, as you showed us, networked with cameras, as well as being able to communicate the data in real time. At the same time, you're saying that if the officer gets out and reaches for his taser, immediately the cameras go on. If another officer comes on the scene separate without his camera on, it will be turned on once he enters that bubble, correct?
Correct. Those are the triggers that are built into this system, that if the taser is deployed and is activated, is, what's the term? Turned on. Activated. So
Activated.
fire,
Activated.
you're ready to fire, your cameras will kick on. If the holsters will be modified with a sensor, so that if you draw your firearm in the field, just by drawing your firearm, unholstering it, will turn on cameras in the proximity. So you would catch anything that any camera was there from any angle. It doesn't wait to get turned on. The officer doesn't have to remember to turn it on. It automatically activates it.
Okay, so that in this procurement, you're also including that all the police vehicles will be networked, set up with that, the wiring, the networking to associate with all of the equipment, both the tasers and the cameras, correct?
That is correct.
How many vehicles again?
So there are 4 marked vehicles that have 4 different cameras that are inside the vehicle, assigned in the vehicle, along with our license plate reader cameras in those vehicles. And then every single officer will have their own body worn camera on them and their own taser.
So, and lastly, if you use a drone, that drone also integrates with the network in the vehicle and with the cameras.
So we are testing that right now. They gave us one to test, the auto air pilot part of that. So we're still working through whether or not that's going to be part of it. It looks like it will, but we want to make sure it's up to the standard that we needed.
Okay, so what you're saying with this procurement, just to summarize, is that you have the sole source provider, the standard in the industry, providing body cameras for each of your officers, along with tasers with the latest technology and the cartridges that give the different ranges, that will then also be networked in each of the vehicles that can communicate the images, the data, so that it can be used as a source for evidence. And all of that is going to be done with a 5-year contract where we don't get any increases in the cost. And at the same time, we are given training and guarantees, warranties, as well as replacement, any problems like that, as well as training. Is that right? For less than $200,000?
That is absolutely correct. That's why they're industry standard, the technology that they give, correct.
Well, having a little bit of a technology background, that's remarkable. So I think this is amazing. I think it's wonderful. I certainly support your efforts to make this available to us, even though we've not had to use it in the past. We have to anticipate what we need in the future. And I think you have a mandate, certainly from me, and I think the commission, to ensure that our officers have the right equipment to deal with the problems, however they may occur in the future. But I think overall, a nice job. I do have for Linelda one correction on page, let's see, 56, under recommendation, it says approve funding to support the, I think you mean to put police department and waive the bid process? Or I'm not sure what you meant in there. Do you follow me on the recommendation paragraph, page
Yes.
6.
Yeah, I see it.
Yes, it should be.
Approve. Yeah, approve funding to support what?
The project.
The project. I was thinking police department or whatever, okay. Just, that's a trivial point, I just wanted to clarify that. But again, I want to reinforce that I think this is an excellent procurement to do the right things for the town. Thank you.
Okay, Evelyn?
I think this is a terrific idea. It's better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it. I'm assuming guns are not bright yellow, so it would be difficult to mistake one for the other. Yeah, we live on certain times. And I think this heads off a lot of issues before they arise. It protects our offices, it protects our citizens, and it protects anybody coming through the town. To me, it's a no-brainer. It works all the way around, and we might as well have the best. Thank you.
Peggy?
Yes, Mayor, it's a terrific plan, and I commend the chief and his staff for organizing the grants and all of the input and research. I will tell you, a friend recently looked at property and bought in Highland Beach, a friend from Michigan, and I was very proud to say, he said, well, why should we move here? And I was so very proud to say, well, I don't think you can find a safer, more secure and happy small town in Florida than this one. And a lot of that reason goes to the chief and his staff and Marshall. So thank you.
If you're going to get a big head here.
Yes,
All
I'm,
yours.
I'm very supportive of the idea and all that kind of stuff. I guess I'm curious, is there any information on like technology glitches? Like, does it always work perfectly well? It sounds pretty complicated, and the technology that I seem to use seems to always kind of break down at some place. So,
This is the biggest and best company that's out there, that this is why they are where they are. I'm not sure. I know we're working through the Air app part of it to make sure it's up to speed, but they've been in place with all of the other technology and the upgrades as it comes through on these things. So I don't know of anything major other than the Air pilot.
do other police departments report on like whether there have been any glitches or how seamless, does it work 100% every
So I
time?
came from Delray.
Okay.
I, for the last 6 years, I managed the Axon program over there. Sorry, I can't hear. And does it work all the time, 100%? No. But does anything? No. But their technical support staff is phenomenal. 24/7, 365. If I ever called, if I couldn't figure it out on my own, they were there and they walked me through it. Just today, just working with the drone, trying to get the air program working for the town because it's a demo environment. Within 2 phone calls, we had it up and running and we're able to live view. That's them. They are tremendous, and being able to work with them for the last 6 years. Even when there was a glitch, they made it very seamless in fixing it. But the system is very simple. It's a very simplistic system. They don't over bundle it with unnecessary stuff. Very simple. The wiring, very simple for the cars. And, you know, unless something breaks, it really doesn't fit.
So I know like our cell signal has been a little questionable. So does this work off of cell signal or Wi-Fi?
It does. It doesn't take a whole lot. The live stream takes a little bit more cell signal to be able to live view certain things like the drone footage. But as far as the communication with it's more Bluetooth, like when the cameras are in close proximity to the cars and the tasers and the gun, it's more of a Bluetooth signal than it is a Wi-Fi signal. It's the transmitting of data back to the cloud that we would need that Wi-Fi or that cellular signal. But even if that didn't work, we can always come back to the station and upload that video. It'll always store on the camera, be offloaded at a later time when we do have a stronger signal. And based on the information we're working on that other part of it. So hopefully, when that's rectified, then everything can be offloaded in the field, which will allow the officers to be out in the field more, be more transparent in the field and not have to worry about uploading stuff here at the police station.
So what do you do? Do you like test it on a daily basis that everything comes on? At
Yeah,
a-
so the taser is tested daily. I mean, we take our tasers out, we fire them, make sure that they're cycling right, the batteries are charged, everything. The signal unit, which is a little device that goes inside the car, once we program it, however we want to do it, because we can set it up in different ways, it sends a Bluetooth signal to the body camera, and it basically sends like a circular radius around the vehicle within 15 feet. If you're inside that 15-foot radius, it's going to activate your camera. The handgun will do the same thing. Once it's drawn, it will send out that signal within 15 feet. It will also activate the camera if the camera isn't already activated. And when I say activated, that's recording. The cameras are already powered on. They need to be powered to be able to sense that signal of the Bluetooth signal that's being emitted. And once that's done, it starts the recording. If the officer hasn't already started recording, if it's already started, it won't stop it. The officer still has to manually stop it. So yeah, so you turn your cameras on, you make sure that it has a full battery, you test it, you test your taser. When you turn your emergency lights on to position 2 or just your overheads, no sirens, that's another signal that's activated that will start a recording. So when you go through your start of your day and you're going to activate and make sure that everything is functioning, and then shut everything down and then start your day.
Okay.
Yep.
Mayor, could I ask one more question?
No, you used up way too much time. Of course, go.
So Chief, just one last question from me, and that is, how would you describe how your officers feel about having the cameras? You know that obviously some departments were reluctant, some don't, most do or are going to, but I just wanted to get a feel for where you think the officers are in this continuum.
Yeah, and thank you. It's a good question. We were fortunate and proud to be one of the first agencies. The foundation supported, Highland Beach Police Foundation supported the purchase of our first cameras back in 2015. We have tasers. We've always had tasers. So they're familiar with the tasers, they're familiar with the body cameras, but they also know that this is the premier, this is the Cadillac of what you could get. There's a reason why all these agencies are spending the big investments. This is a small investment because we're a small agency. I understand some of these are investing hundreds of thousands of dollars a year to keep this, to put these in place with Axon because of all the integration and storage and iCloud and things that happen. So they're certainly, they're proud to be able to have some of the best equipment and technology that's available. So they're excited about getting it. They've seen the capabilities of it. They understand what it does. They know it's there for them and to protect them. We utilize that. We utilize that for critique, for training, for feedback. We're constantly reviewing those. So they're excited. They like this stuff.
Thank you, Chief.
Yes.
Are we purchasing this equipment or leasing it? And if we are purchasing it at the end of 5 years, based on what has happened in the past, technology jumps leaps and bounds in a 5-year period, would we be able to get a credit towards upgrading to whatever is current?
Very good question. That TAP and that technology assurance plan that's in there, that upgrade continues as they develop new technology. We will incur costs beyond the 5 years or purchase of everything now, but there will always be need for funds in the budget to stay in with Axon like every other agency does. But yes, very, very good question. They do upgrade that. We pay for that, though. We have that technology assurance plan. So if something comes out within 2 years that changes a game changer, they will upgrade that. Good question.
Were you finished? Okay. First of all, you had me at the 70% fewer officer injuries. Okay. That lined up for me right there. Just a couple of quick questions. You were talking about 15 feet is basically the area in which the cameras automatically go on when somebody enters the scene, another officer enters the scene. Does that mean that the 15 feet is also the amount of distance that our cameras are covering? Is that what you've selected? Because I noticed there were a number of options.
So the camera, the way the lens is designed, it's a very a wide angle lens. So it wants to capture what the officer sees. If it's 50 yards, my eyesight, and I sometimes wear glasses, isn't as great at 50 yards as it is at 5 feet.
Yeah.
So that's why the cameras don't come with like infrared or anything like that. They don't want to enhance what the officer sees. If you begin enhancing what the officer sees, like there's no magnification on the cameras. It's what you see. So as you're looking at me, I'm looking at you. My camera is seeing you at this distance, and it's going to be pretty clear. As you increase distance or light or those capabilities, it's going to diminish. But if you walked into a black room, the camera is going to see a black room. So that's what they're trying to say, that if the officer walked into a room that was completely black and he didn't have a flashlight, we're not going to enhance that image because the officer's not seeing. The camera may see it, but the officer can't see it.
But were there not distance options?
There are not distance options with the camera itself. So the in-car camera does have a zoom feature, which you can tap on it, and what it'll do, it'll zoom in on a tag. So you can capture that tag.
Gotcha.
And then after 10 seconds, it retracts back to a normal view.
Okay.
The rear camera does have an infrared feature for a prisoner. So that way, if you have a prisoner in the car, it's dark, you're transporting to county jail, you can see what they're doing in the back seat for safety.
Okay.
The front camera does not have infrared. Again, wants to see what the officer sees. Once you begin enhancing, that's when people start questioning, well, the camera saw the man with a pen. Why didn't the officer? Well, the officer was standing in a black room with no flashlight.
Gotcha.
So
Okay. Question for Glenn. We obviously didn't bid this. Are we okay?
As long as you're making the determination that it's a sole source, and certainly the chief has provided more than enough data to support that determination.
Okay.
You have a letter. You have a letter from them for sole source.
Okay. Cool. Anybody else have anything? Okay, I think we're good. Go ahead.
Mayor, thank you. And really great questions, very important questions. Shows you really take that seriously. I think it's important for our community to see and hear that. This is a big investment. We know that. It's an important investment, and you guys don't take that lightly. So, but I'm glad you asked those questions because you hear the kind of expertise that we find and we have in our department. We don't just do these things. There's a lot of thought. There's a lot of experience that comes as we go through. These things are important in our world, and we put a lot of time and investment in this staff that comes together with all these things that come up on your agendas here. They're doing that. They're doing the research. They're phenomenal, and it's always within the best interest of our community. They expect that we have this kind of equipment and technology, and it's important that our residents know that this commission always supports those efforts and what we're doing here. And I'm sure they're going to get that same support in the fire department in the years to come. So this community should be very proud of the way this town is run. So
Chief,
thank you for your support.
Chief, we support the police department because we want to make sure you have everything that you need, because we expect top performance from your department, and we get it. So it's a great partnership. And anytime you need anything, you come to us and we're going to deliver, just as you have continued to deliver, and we appreciate it.
Thank you always for your support. Thank
Okay.
you.
I guess we need a motion for this.
Before I move, I want to say, I love living in a place where there is very little crime. And that's why we want to keep it that way.
Yeah.
Okay, I move that we allow the mayor, authorize the mayor to purchase the Axion camera system.
Got a second?
Second.
I guess for this amount of money, we should have a roll call.
Commissioner David,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Moore,
Aye.
Commissioner Shoemaker,
Absolutely, yes.
Commissioner Gossick Sideman,
Yes.
Mayor Hillman.
Absolutely, Arthur.
Thank you.
100%. Okay, let's move on to resolution number 2021-012, budget amendment. Resolution of the Town Commission of the Town of Highland Beach, Florida, amending resolution number 20-017, which appropriated funds for the 2020-2021 fiscal year budget and providing an effective date. Marshall, turn it over to you.
Now that you have approved the 5-year contract, now we allocate the dollars to support it. So at this point, our first payment will be this year. So we're going to go into the discretionary sales tax dollars. We still have some money left over because we did so well on the roofing project. So there are funds available within that. So this is not a general fund expenditure. This will come out of the discretionary sales tax. We can continue this strategy moving forward over the remaining 4 payments. Or we're going to be exploring here as more information comes out of the Treasury Department. We may be able to use the American Rescue Plan dollars and just go ahead and pay for it now. But until we get the rulings cleared for us, at this point, we're going with the discretionary sales tax strategy over the 5 years. As we get more information during the budget season, we will add some clarity and bring that to you for decision. Do you want to just purchase it, keep it on the payment structure, discretionary sales tax, American Rescue Plan?
Okay,
So at this point, just sales tax.
this is on page 87 if you want to read the resolution, but we need a motion.
Can I just, a quick question?
sure.
So is there any benefit to paying it all up front? Sometimes they give a discount, but no, it's the same
No.
equivalent.
It's the equivalent. There's no interest on it. There's no finance charges to do it this way. Axion's actually been quite receptive to our needs and gave us the 5-year option. Usually they ask for it all at once, but they recognized our situation and we're willing to work with us. So
Good question, though. Might have been a discount.
Usually there is.
Okay, need a motion to move forward on it?
I move that we accept resolution 2021-012 as presented.
Second.
Seconded. All in favor, just say aye.
Aye.
Moving forward, item E, page 91, approval to cancel the July 6th, 2021 Town Commission meeting. Why do we need to cancel that?
this is coming out of my office. As I had indicated before, I will not be in town on the 6th of July. So I am posing that any business that we normally would have had on the 6th, we will pick it up on the 13th during our special meeting where we are talking or setting our maximum millage rate. That usually goes pretty quick. So we could piggyback those July 6 items and then not have the 6th, but if you so choose and wish to meet, I don't have a problem, having staff fill in for me. I just, we have an opportunity the next week. We're having a meeting anyway, just to double up at that time.
That's fine. Makes sense to me. Anybody have a problem with it? No? Okay. Need a mo-
I'll make the motion to approve the cancellation of the July 6th meeting and instead move it to the July 13th meeting.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, moving on to item F, construction codes, property line runoff and code issues from Commissioner Gossett Seidman.
Yes, thank you. Hang on, I just had to plug in my charging wire, so give me 1 second. Sorry, it's an on the road matter. Okay. Yes, I had posted for you all a video and I believe a photo. Do we have those up, Teresa, today?
She does. She's working on those as we speak.
Sure. All righty. I had brought this back to the commission because of the raising of the new properties to 1 foot above the past. That isn't it. It's just one video and one photo. But anyway, I wanted the commission and our town planner and Marshall to please consider how to manage future single family home and, for that matter, townhome. And if there were new condos, having to raise their NAVID to 12 inches minimum above previous lines. And this does cause a flow of water and debris and materials onto ongoing properties. It may not be terrible in some cases. It may be a problem in other cases. And I thought we should look at this as an ongoing future problem, the more building and renovating we do have in town. We are built out, but we're continuing to have tear downs, renovations, upgrades. Some people are adding to their homes. So I don't know if what would be feasible out there. This is Ingrid in Marshall's department, possibly some kind of protective material at the property line. But in those cases where gutters or the configuration of homes does drain onto side property lines, particularly, it does cause a flow of materials and over time affects neighboring properties. I just don't believe this is something that anyone saw coming, but it does occur and is occurring now. And so I wanted to bring it up and see if there might be any discussion and any solution going forward for this.
Were there photos there that we're going to
Yes,
look at?
sir. I had a photo and a video, if it's available, that I had uploaded to Teresa. I don't know if we're having technical difficulties. When we do have our rainy seasons or our tropical storms, in some cases, the roof lines or the gutter lines of the new properties, with no one even foreseeing this, occasionally they do cause a major runoff onto neighboring properties who are set lower due to it being built years ago. Any of the properties, and this is causing both water and the ongoing sand and dirt and debris to flow onto the neighboring properties. In some cases, properties next door have been raised up 3, 4, and 5 inches in those side yard setback areas, particularly. This can be a problem, but I wanted us to consider it as we continue to have build outs. I have a video of just a neighboring property streaming onto a home, and it's just a standard rainstorm. Just something that may be in planning and in our site surveys and our plans being prepared, it could be considered. I don't know what materials would be available, if something like landscaping stones or some configuration of the way that the side properties are put forward in the landscaping. Some landscaping plants are much better in their root systems and their shrubbery and holding and retaining soil than others. That's an area for Marshall and Ingrid, but I do want to bring it to everyone's attention.
Well, you have. I mean, I can imagine what it looks like.
Yes, sir. So if we don't have the video, we can bring this back another time, or bring it back when we do have the issues arising or we're doing something similar with the codes.
I lived in a single family home most of my life, so I know what this stuff looks like. I got you. And it's an issue.
It really is. Yes, sir. It really is. The gutters and the roof lines in some situations produce the general outpouring of soil, debris, and water. The water, of course, erodes the sand, our sandy soils, more easily than, say, up north, where you might have lived, sir, where the dirt is, more compact. So I just wanted to bring it out there, and we'll see the video at another time. And I thank you for your time.
Okay. Marshall, you wanted to say something?
I would speak to this in general terms, and I see Jeff walked in, so help address this. The best way to do that when you are having changes of property elevations is through your grading plan or your site engineering plan, where basically they have to accommodate that because you can't drain water directly onto other folks' property. Now, going back in time, I can't speak to our predecessors as to how well they looked at site grading plans, but I know that we require a structural as well as a site engineer review by our plan reviewers and CAP, and you can see Jeff nodding his head, that we do that to make sure that that is addressed moving forward, that if you raise your property and it ends up being significantly higher, you have to come up with a strategy by which you control that flow on your property, draining it to the rear or front or into some engineered structures on your property that can accommodate those flows, and or putting in swales, as we've come to find out, along property lines. So there may be properties, older properties, or properties, that were done several, say 5 years ago or longer. I can't really speak to that, but I know over the last 3 or 4 years, about 3 years, we've been taking a really close look, and that's kind of time when I got here that was an issue. So Jeff, do you have anything more than that? Just that we are looking at that and making sure site drainage and grades are appropriately incorporated into plans?
Yes, absolutely. For at least the last 2.5 years, at the very least, we've required site engineering plans from a civil engineer that draw in and maintain all of the drainage from the roof and from non-permeable surfaces on their lot, on their site. Now, there's only so much that you could hold, and we want for pretty much the first inch of rain they need to be able to. Then after that, it's going to go where it's going to go. But that's something that has been looked at very carefully, and my predecessor, Mr. Massey, that was one of his big pet peeves, and that's one of the things that he made sure was absolutely done. And he would have it reviewed, and he would review it himself on top of it, just to double check things. But that's something that we've been addressing since day one. The height, the difference in elevation is really not relevant because we're maintaining water better than what was done in the past. So the newer homes that have been going in, that have been permitted in at least the last 2.5 or so years, certainly had this issue addressed.
Yeah, I think Peggy's point, and it's totally valid, isn't what has been done in the recent past. These may be homes that were built 5-10 years ago, or even greater. These people have to be responsible for their runoff. It's that simple.
Mayor, I have a video here on my phone. I could send it if you all, and a photo if there's a method of our technology of putting it up.
Peggy, can I finish, please? And then I'll turn it over to you, but let me finish my point.
Oh, yeah, sorry, I thought you were finished.
So people have to be responsible for their runoff, and whether it's debris or it's sand or whatever it is. So I think what we need to look at, and I'm not proposing anything yet, is how can people that built homes before we started to pay close attention to this, what can be done to get them to put a halt to this? Because it's invading the next person's property, and that's just not acceptable.
Agree.
So that's what we
100%.
have to start to look into.
I have a question. I understand how people can do that when construction is complete. How do we prevent the runoff during construction?
Well, that's yet another subject. Agreed.
Because
that's another one.
that seems to be part of the problem, is that construction materials and all kinds of things before all the grass and the plants and everything that might absorb it have gone in, and debris goes all over.
So during construction, they have to install a silt fence, and that's going to help retain most of the silt and debris, but it's never going to be 100%. All right, we're never going to be able to control 100% of a construction site, but they do, and that's one of the inspections that I have on the sheet now, is that we have to perform not just a construction site fence, but also the silt fence has to be signed off and inspected and then maintained throughout the life of construction.
Okay, Peg, you were.
Yes, sir. Yes, Ms. Teresia had said that she could possibly post them. I just resent to her as we're speaking about this, if it's possible to get them up, or I can just do a quick video from here on my other phone if it would help the matter before we close it out.
Okay, just hold it for a minute.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
So the issue kind of goes back to before all of our time here. When, either this wasn't paid attention to or it wasn't enforced or whatever. And I'm not suggesting we're going to solve it today. I don't even want to get into that discussion. But we need to, that's all. Okay,
Great.
that's it.
Yeah, agree. And just for the record, we haven't had one to us. Now, to the building department or code enforcement, we have yet to receive any type of formal or any complaint about cross-contamination or runoff. If we do, we would be happy to look into it and use whatever we have in our current ordinances to address, that situation.
I don't doubt that you would. Of course you
Yeah.
would. Yeah. Okay. All right.
Like,
What is happening here, Peggy?
That is water runoff onto a property next door from a new elevated home, causing drainage of water and sand and whatever else. And it just,
So wait a minute, that's the new home there? Or
Yes.
the-
yes,
I see, I think. And so the river that we see here is on the existing property next door to the new construction.
that's correct. And I know I had heard of a few complaints about this, and I redirected the people complaining to me to the building department, Mr. Remus. And so if they have continuing problems about homes currently going up, they need to speak to him, as I've notified them, and Marshall. Also, in dry, windy conditions, things blow across. So just wanted everyone to share that and have everyone be aware as we continuing to see building.
Peggy, is it also reasonable that the older homeowners should also consider raising their land as well, or not?
John, we're not going to.
Possibly, but that would cause water to run off towards the home, which would erode the foundation.
Okay,
So I don't know. It would just depend on each home towards the home, and over time that erodes anything set in the setback, such as air conditioning, and also the actual foundation of homes themselves. I'm not talking really old homes like the 2 or 3 bedroom, but even some of the 6, 8, 10-year-old homes are having these affected issues from water and sand and soil runoff. So I want to just share it with my colleagues and be aware of it, and we can talk about it going forward as needed.
Yep. Okay. Thank you for bringing it to our attention.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mayor.
Mayor, I have a question.
Moving on to item G.
I have a question, Mayor.
Page 94.
Can I just add
Oh, wait a
one
minute.
thing?
Go ahead.
So what is the appropriate, if a homeowner has this type of situation, what is it that they should do?
They bring it to him. Actually, if it's a code violation, it would go to code enforcement. Right now, it's not even a
What if the
code.
homeowner doesn't know? They just experience runoff from another.
If they don't even know
What-
who to call, they would call Marshall. He would direct them.
I'm sorry, just contact the building department, have them contact the building department, and we will look at, like, I would love to know the address or how old the home was that is, newer, with the baby blue paint color home, so that I can start looking into that. If I knew what address that was, that would be very helpful.
So just the building department, the general number, just call.
Yeah, general building department number, and we'll handle it from there.
And just
Yep,
talk to whoever answers.
not a problem.
Okay.
We'll easily handle that and investigate.
Yeah, in a case like this, it's not a commission issue at
Right,
all.
right,
Yeah, shouldn't come to the commission.
right.
It's clearly a building department.
Yeah.
What Peggy was talking about originally though, was homes built 5, 10, 15 years ago when there really were I'm assuming there were no codes. If there were codes, it's code enforcement. If there weren't any codes, then it's not code enforcement. it would be building department if we knew the building department had some tools that they could use. They
But it sounds
probably
like-
don't. So we have to take a look at it.
But it sounds like
Yes.
he said, go ahead and send it to him regardless. and
On
then
that
he'll-
new one, absolutely, got tools.
Yes, Mayor, we do have codes in place that would address this. So it's just a matter of Mr. Remus, enforcing what's there on the books or maybe rewriting them if it needs be.
Well, that's the basic difference. If there were ordinances in place, then those are his tools.
Yes, sir, that's correct. Under section 12.2, there's a code, and there's also the nuisance law does tend to cover this, the general nuisance section 17-3.
That covers construction from 15 years ago.
Yes, sir, it should. But again, that would be for Glenn and Mr. Remus to look into. But it appears that those two codes would cover this.
Then if that in fact is the case, then he has the tools and it would go directly to him. And
Yes,
it
sir.
would not involve us.
And I would assume if they don't really apply, Jeff will come back to us with recommended ordinances that would solve the problem or give him a tool.
Yeah.
Yes,
Or an-
ma'am. Yes, that was my goal in presenting this today. Yes, ma'am.
We don't want to get involved in these things because we have an organization in place to take care of it.
And as long as we're notified and there's a complaint, we will respond appropriately. And if we don't have the tools, we will, of course, come to you with a recommendation to give us the tools that we need.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Anything else? We move on? Okay, let's move on. Item G can be found on page 94. Approve and authorize town manager to execute task order number 21 with Baxter and Woodman, Inc. for construction management services for the 3-year gravity sewer main rehab and repair project.
Thank you, Mayor. So as you know, we have a large sewer lining project up front, and part of that does require some construction management services and assistance for the Public Works Department. Basically, they say construction management, I call it the construction engineering component of the project, to have our engineers out on site controlling the work, defining that work, where to start, stop, checking quality, checking video as they do lining and pipe repair, make sure things are done properly and designed. So we asked Baxter Women to provide us a task order consistent with their contract with us, since they did do the televising and wrote the report. So this cost you see of $57,198 is for the entire project. Regardless of how we define the timeline, because we kind of put a pin in it and wanted to see where the Charter Review Board goes. So we didn't know if we were going to break it over 3 years, we were going to do it all at once, or over 2 years. So this, in essence, covers us however we decide to break that up. This is the cost to do the project in its entirety, whether we do it in 1 year or 3. I mean, if we spread it out over 15 years, of course, or something like that, as I exaggerate, there'll probably be some other change orders to their cost structure. But if we keep it in that 3-year window, this is the cost for them to do it. So we just need town commission approval for me to execute this task order with them pursuant to contract terms. And again, this summer, we will be working on, we have a meeting this week, Thursday, to work on that initial scope for those line fractures and get that first year push done. So we're working on that for this summer to get those 2-point repairs fixed, and then do some approximate lining. What I mean by that, in the area of the repairs, we're going to look to branch out from structure to structure to do some lining in there, test the process, see where it goes, and take a piece of that project out, and then decide how we move forward.
Any questions from anyone? Please.
Can I just clarify what I think I heard? Marshall, what you're saying is that the $57,000 approximately will cover this task order from now until the end of the year, and your expectation is that the project will be done by the end of the year, no?
No. Basically, the task order is whatever, this is the construction management services to complete the project, whether we complete the project in 1 year or we do it in 3 years that we initially contemplated. Regardless of our timeline, it's going to cost that much to have Baxter Woodman direct the project. So for their services to help us finish this project, regardless if it's 1 year or 3 years, it's $57,000.
So, but then I'm confused about the 1.1 million. Is this just a part of that?
Yeah, the 1.1 million that you recall from that study was a very conservative estimate, and it included 20% contingency and soft costs. The soft cost is what I would consider the construction engineering elements. So our project would be $1.1 million unless something goes wrong. Because we have a huge contingency in that initial study plus all the soft costs. So our project's probably more manageable in the $800,000 range is where I'm looking at it. Because we have a contractor in place to do lining already. Our emergency services, our underground contractor kind of goes back and forth. But for our underground contractor gave us prices for pipe size and lining by the foot. So we kind of know our pricing. It's just a matter of, if we recall, is when we hit that charter limit in any fiscal year, have to decide to stop.
So, but the point is that $57,000 is part of that 1.1 million estimate.
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Page 98, you'll see the breakdown of the 57.
I'm on it. Yeah. Yeah, I see. I just didn't know if that was part of the 1.1 million estimate that hopefully is soft.
Yeah.
It'll be a lot less than that.
That's in there, yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Good.
Evelyn, anything?
No, you have to have somebody monitor, someone who knows what they're doing.
Exactly.
And that seems like a reasonable amount based on the amount of work that has to be done and how long this project may potentially take. So something that we need.
Peggy, on to you.
Yes, I think that this is certainly a necessary project, and I'm all behind this. Very glad that it has been looked at, and instead of just assuming that the lines were fine, now we know the condition they're in, and I appreciate everyone's help.
Okay. Roger.
I agree. It looks reasonable to me.
Okay. Somebody said this passes the smell test, so I agree.
In spades. or with spades.
All right, we need a motion on it. Need a motion to approve?
Okay, I move that we approve the $57,198 for task number 21.
There a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, move on to page 101. And the details follow that. Approve and authorize the mayor to execute a proposal with Shenandoah Construction, Inc., using the cooperative bid contract of Broward College in the amount of $55,840 to complete phase 2 of the sewer cleaning and inspecting and televising of all gravity sewer lines on the side streets for any deficiencies of the town's sewer system. Back to you, Johnny.
Well, again, could Marcia, you explain Broward School System District, their role in this?
They have no role. So basically, the bid price that we have, we use Shenandoah to do the original push down to 1A. That contract had a limited and finite scope. So we basically went back to them and a couple other firms and asked for bids. Shenandoah has already gone through a public bidding process, which under state statute, we are allowed to go through a cooperative purchasing venue. So we can meet our purchasing policy requirement by utilizing the Broward County's bid for televising and cleaning of sanitary sewer. So we are basically, the loose term is piggybacking their contract. Seems kind of an odd way of saying it, but it's a piggyback contract with Broward County for us to do this work at those prices.
Yeah, piggyback is what I was thinking, but I wasn't sure. Okay, I understand totally.
You good?
I'm good.
Now, I would assume also that since Broward County has a lot more work, they would probably get a much better price than we would ever be able to get on our own.
Fair assumption.
So
Yeah, yeah.
it's a no-brainer as far as I'm concerned.
Peggy?
I am good with it also and appreciate your help.
Okay, Natasha?
Makes sense to me.
Okay, I'm good also. Let's get a motion.
So this is section 2-28. Correct? Rule number 1, I would make a motion to approve this procurement going forward.
The item is item 11H, so you can make a motion to approve item 11H.
Wait a minute, I'm moving down to page, is that
On page,
100 and,
well, you can just look at page 6. You can just make the motion for 11H.
yeah, I make the motion then to approve the amount in 11H for the sewer project.
Second,
It's been seconded. All in favor, say aye.
aye.
Okay, now we're into commission meeting minutes. We have the minutes of March 2nd and the minutes of March 11th. Starts on page 142. Oh, okay, wait a minute. Whoops. Oh, I'm correct. After that, we'll talk about the graduates.
Right.
Okay, I do have a comment on the March 2nd minutes. It's really a question. My question is on page 144. It's the last paragraph, first sentence. Overgrown shrubs within a visible triangle. What is the visible triangle? What does that refer to?
The ordinance defines the visibility triangle based on 25 feet in each direction of an intersection. So we basically are talking about bushes that grow in and obstruct your sight line while you're driving at an intersection. So there's a visibility triangle, if you will, that's defined in the ordinance that has to be clear of shrubs and lower.
Okay. Gotcha. Thank you. Okay.
Good point, though.
Okay, I just didn't know what we were talking about
Makes
there.
sense.
Anybody jump in if you have any comments on either of the two?
No,
Twice? Okay, we can have a motion then to approve both sets of minutes for the 2nd and the 11th?
We have to do it separately.
No, you can do them
We
both
can do
together.
both?
Yeah.
Okay, I move that we approve the minutes as presented for the March 2nd and March 11th session.
Okay, got a second? All in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
aye,
Aye. Okay. The item that we added, discussion about recent graduates from all the different schools and all levels. Peggy, on to you.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, we began this process last year when, of course, students were not able to have any kind of graduation ceremony due to COVID. It was very well received by the community, as far as I've ever heard, by people throughout the town. And so I thought, well, we're back into spring now and people are starting to graduate. It might be nice to continue this to honor those children and young adults and any adults who have graduated from programs, and wanted to share it with my commissioners and see if we wanted to continue the thought of sending out congratulatory letters to those graduating.
Anybody want to comment? Just jump in.
Sounds like a nice idea. I mean, doesn't hurt.
Okay.
yeah, let's be consistent.
I believe last year the mayor signed the letters on behalf of the commission and our names were carried, and we also published them in one of the manager minutes emails. And I just think it went a long way for community, a good community feel. So if the mayor does signing a few more letters.
Yep, I think it's a nice thought. It'd be my pleasure to sign them.
Yes, sir. Thank you. So if we could just have the process started, I'll leave that with you with, our town manager.
Marshall, you good?
Yes.
Okay,
Great. Thank you.
glad you brought it up. Good thinking, Peg.
Yes. Thank you, sir.
Okay, moving on to comments. Start with John.
Well, the only thing I could add is the experience I've had with John Ross and the Committee to Save Highland Beach. As you may have seen, he did present in his last newsletter the heroes of Highland Beach, and basically summarizing what we as a commission are trying to do in support of veterans. So I thought it was a very good announcement and reinforcement of the initiative that we're all taking. And I'll reinforce that I appreciate the support of all of you, and that from what I have learned, there's a lot of positive feeling about the things that we're doing and that we want to do. So that's really my key point that I'd like to make today. Thanks, all of you.
Okay, Evelyn.
I sort of want to mirror what John is saying. Because we are such a small community, we have the ability to do real good projects. And it behooves us to do them, whether it's appreciating graduates or just talking to veterans or any of the little things that we can do that a larger community can't do. And it just makes us more of a cohesive environment. And I think it promotes people to be better neighbors.
Yep.
So I'm in favor of doing all of those things.
You might want to share what you told me that some of the people in your building were telling you about their feelings about fire rescue and what we're doing.
Oh, everyone I have spoken to, 100% are behind us creating our own fire department. And even when I would give them an overinflated number, not a one of them batted an eye. I believe in, saying it's going to be more than it actually is, and then people are happy when it doesn't hit that, rather than give you a lower number and go over it. They don't like going over it. But everyone is behind it, no questions.
I have been thinking about the strategic plan we have that's called Create Fund Balance Guideline and Financial Working Process. I'd like to volunteer to spearhead that project. I think it's good timing with the fire rescue system that we have. In particular, evaluating whether or not we take bonds or financing it somehow, or perhaps the cash that we have on hand. I think it goes well together. So I'm not sure exactly what's the right process, but I'd like to volunteer to start that project.
Excellent. Good.
Okay, so I guess I can work with Marshall on the timing of it and
Sure.
all
I mean,
that, and getting the
it's
information we need to evaluate it.
it's a bit ways off yet,
Mhm.
probably a year off still, but when the time comes,
Right.
you got it. Thank you for volunteering.
Well, yeah, well, I guess what I was thinking of, what I would do is establish be the point person to establish what is the right amount of reserves that the town should have. You know, right now we have unassigned surplus of 52% of our annual budget or something like that. So
I'm glad you're going to do it. You're jumping into a very controversial
okay,
piece, but that's a subject we should discuss, come to grips with,
right,
because there are some really varied opinions on that. So, and that's an important piece because that's going to be I'll say significant part of the funding.
right,
So that's probably step one right there.
right,
And we can certainly work tomorrow. Okay.
right.
Yeah, great. And obviously Matt will be working with,
Right. I think that's makes sense, you know.
Greg has offered also if we need any.
Okay.
So when
Great.
when we determine what balance is going to be, you know, and then how much we want to fund outside of our own, then Greg can probably be helpful.
Okay.
Okay.
That's it for me.
Len?
Forgot me.
Covered it all.
Oh, Peggy, I'm sorry. I'm
That's
sorry.
okay. Out of town, out of mind. No worries. I just wanted to bring up. I'm up to bat.
Yep, you are.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Last week I was inducted as a board to the Palm Beach County League of Cities. And as Evelyn heard in her building, I also received a lot of kudos and support from various commissioners and council members from around the county who were very impressed that we had the guts to make a decision to establish our own fire department. At this week also, I would say several issues regarding power lines and trees and all came to culmination. 2 weeks ago, as I reported at a previous meeting, Representative Caruso made some calls to the vice president of FP&L, who we'd met with just on chance in Tallahassee. And I was really looking into trying to get better internet at my house for my town phone and computer initially months ago, but it turned into an actual really hard look at our town. And he asked me to list a series of issues that we had, which I did send, and I'll copy, I think you all on the email if I didn't. Anyway, it came to the point that he empowered our local representative to meet, I think this morning with Pat Roman, and in the near future with Marshall to try to step up their attention to our town. It turned out our police chief had way better data than I did looking at how many streetlights were out at night, because as a safety and security matter, here we are worried about crosswalks and safety, whereas it turned out we had 24 out of 63 streetlights either out, no power or no currently working bulbs, or blocked by trees to the point they were not effective, or both. I only counted 12, but in fact there were 24, which is more than 1/3 of our lights in town. So we definitely want to have them operable. In fact, there's a state code and we have a town code, which requires that trees and shrubbery not block the street lights. I'll forward that code on to Marshall, but it's something that he and Mr. Roman and our chief will be taking up on behalf of all of us in the town. And it just, for whatever reasons that are not known yet, but FP&L had not really paid attention to our needs, and the chief's multiple requests to come in and sort out these issues. Once that is completed, and there's currently hardening of some of the poles in the north end, once that is completed, they will then take a look at the utility, the cable and internet lines that are affixed to the poles. The legislature passed a bill that requires, at a minimal charge, the utility companies to pay for rental space on the FP&L poles. And that is why allegedly some servers and some different, I think Sprint was one and Verizon, were not getting very good reception in town because of this conflict of who wants to pay for rental use of the FP&L lines. They actually have to pay FP&L to rent being affixed to their poles. And so that will be the second phase of it, and it will be in the hands of Pat and Marshall and the chief. And I just think that they did a great job pushing, and it took a couple of hard pushes at the top to get it done. So that's my report.
Very good.
Oh, that's good news.
Yes, sir.
My turn.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. I have no report.
And I still have no report.
Okay. You going to join the no report club?
No, I gotta say something, right?
Yeah, there's always one in every crowd, Mayor. You know?
Yeah, thanks, Ben. Thank you. Again, I sent an email for you all to take a look at. I hope to get some more information as it relates to our preliminary estimate on tax value. Our property taxes increased at 2.81%. So I'm asking for more information, asking for them to define that a bit, because anecdotally, we all believe it should have been a lot more. A lot of us through the community thought it should be a lot more, but the property appraiser department or group, they're really good at their job. So I've asked them for some more information because you may have questions. How did they come up with this? How did they come up with that? An interesting fact that came out of it that drives some of it is we issued no certificate of occupancies in 2020. So next year, when we get this number, you'll see a significant number of new construction projects brought online onto the tax roll that weren't on in 2020. So that's some of it, but we're looking at that. So again, our financial position is strong. It's just, we're not going to bring in new revenue as much as we had hoped to kind of help with some of the fire stuff and some of the natural escalation in costs of running an organization. So we'll have to take a look at that as we move forward.
Give some comparisons, some other towns.
Yeah, that's what was kind of surprising when she made the presentation. So Boca is 2.77. We're 2.81. Ocean Ridge is 4.53. Jupiter, where's Jupiter on here? Jupiter was 4.42. Juno Beach, which is a kind of a close comparable, 2.87. Wellington was 2.82. North Palm was 7.83. So I'm trying to get into some of how they contribute some of the numbers. Delray Beach, 4.95. But again, the countywide was only 4.69 in total is the estimated. So we traditionally see a slight upward adjustment as we get closer to July. This is their first set of numbers in the spring. So if it does go up, but it won't go up percentages, like it won't be like 1 to 2%. It's usually like 1/10 or 0.2% adjustment. So we could find ourselves closer to 3%, but not much more. We kind of hoped that we'd be in the 5 to 8% based on, again, what we hear and see in the community, what we see in our neighborhoods, if properties transacting, how can this number be there? It's a timing issue too, I believe, and we'll find that along with some of the homestead exemptions that are applied that does cap some of your tax increase. So I've asked for a meeting to get some more details so I can explain it a little bit better for you. Maybe depending on our time, you get Dorothy Jackson here to make her presentation to you all directly. She did that a few years ago, so that might be helpful. But I just wanted to put that out there. It's going to be, I don't want to say difficult budget year. I don't think it's that huge of an issue. It's just be a little more challenging. We're not going to have as much revenue coming in, so we're going to have to be creative, look at that reserve and fund balance. We are dropping off some debt millage this year because of the water study and the water rate adjustment. So for the resident, they won't see much difference. It's just more on our end and how we plan for and move dollars around in the budget process. But I wanted everyone to know how that came out this year. Again, I also sent you the building department. Again, the number of permits issued, number of inspections completed. We're still busy in the construction arena, so that's working well for us. Charter Review Board, as you see, anybody that's listening, if you have any comments, questions, suggestions, the Charter Review Board is quite open to any public feedback or suggestions and where areas to look. So The Charter Review Board in that first meeting basically went through the commission recommendation sections. I will clarify, I did insert 2 into your list. I apologize for not letting you know, but I did clarify that to the commission. So it wasn't like which commissioner said this. So I added a few items that I wanted to have them look at as well from an operational perspective. And they went through that, and we'll start taking a more systematic review of those pieces. Fire, we're still moving forward. I'm trying to work on, making the adjustments to the implementation schedule. We're still reaching out with, making contacts with some individuals that might be interested to come in and make up our advisor team and help us through that. That's each week another person comes in, we start talking to see what their interest level is. We took the first step today to create that department. So we are taking those systematic steps forward. Other than that, I don't have any other updates at this point. Thank you.
Anybody have anything before we close out? No? Okay. It's 3:35 and we will adjourn. Thank you all.
Very good.